Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello, good evening. Welcome back to All for United. I'm so glad Benny's back with me. It's been a while. We said we were back at the start of the year, and we've been very hit and with this show.
I'm glad I'm back. I'm glad to be back, mate. Hopefully we can make this, like you said, a more permanent thing instead of me going being on one show and then not being on the other. So, yeah, hopefully we're back for good now.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, we've got a good show lined up here, talking about some positivity for once surrounding United. It's all negative elsewhere, and you talk about everything else. So we've got two good youngsters out on loan. So we've got our two representatives from either club. I'll just go around and see how everybody is. Tommy, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having us, James.
Good, absolutely no worries. And Dan, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. You?
Good. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a shame you couldn't do us a favour yesterday, hanging on again. Just quickly on that game. What do you reckon then? Because as United, well, you're going to be biased as well, I guess. But penalty, no penalty, offside, no offside.
I'll be honest with you. Looking at the penalty earlier, I didn't think it was a penalty. Like, I mean, if he would have caught him, I thought he would have, but he didn't. The goal, I thought he was offside. It looked like shoulder was offside, but fair for you.
Yeah, I thought it was, and to be fair, it looked like the whole footballing world thought he was offside as well. These dodgy angles.
Yeah. Just show out the penalty because he dragged his leg. You could tell the ball was running away from the attacker a little bit, so he did drag his leg a little bit. Had he have not maybe dragged his leg in a dragging leg emotion, I think it probably may have been given, but such as things.
Yeah,
definitely. We'll get straight into it then. Talk about the loan players then. Obviously, Garner and Amad will be the two players we're talking about today. We'll start with Amad then quickly. I'll just get your brief thoughts on what you thought. Like I'll go to each of you first. Tommy, I'll come to you first, and from an Amad point of view, just your initial thoughts when Rangers signed him on loan. Were you excited? Did you see much of him, before that? Just your initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think like most people, probably fairly excited and pleased. Came with a bit of a reputation, certainly a price tag as well, and probably shouldn't conflate those two things as being a barometer of anything, particularly when the English League is involved, because there's a payment bubble there, so to speak, where players are overcosted. But certainly positive in terms of, listen, we've engaged with Man United, big club. We've managed to get a decent player from what we had seen and what people knew of him, an exciting player as well. We could add something to the squad. Not quite translated is probably the quick take. In fact, I'll go a step further before we flesh it out. Really poor, really, really poor, and absolutely not cutting the mustard or whatever way you want to slice it. He's not fitted in. So yeah, all of that goodwill has certainly evaporated from the fan base for Amad.
Interesting. And Dan, the same question for yourself before we dive in a little bit deeper on it. Your kind of thought. I know Garner had obviously had previous loans as well, but when you got him back, obviously this season as well, your thoughts on that?
I'll be honest with you. When last season he was like revelation, the second half of the season, that it just came into a side where confidence went high. He just basically played really well. Like just some of his balls that we were playing, they were like, wow, what a player man you got. And first to get him back this season, I thought I was really surprised to be fair. I thought Man U would have took him to a Premier League club or higher Championship club. Started off a little bit shaky in and out of the team. I think it was more because it's not used to playing in front of crowds, so we were a bit in and out of the team, bit shaky. But when he stood against Peterborough, he seemed to really took off. He'd been in the team since then, and it just going from that strength to strength every game.
Yeah, I'll come to Tommy next. Tommy, you had your little pre-sale on Amad there, but when Amad did first join, I remember him scoring on his debut for Rangers, because I had a little bit of the best on it and he won me a little bit of money there. But what's gone wrong for Amad then? Is it a confidence issue? Is it a style issue of the Scottish League maybe not suiting his style? Because every time he's sort of maybe played for the United's first team, he's done all right. He's looked all right. He's still got a lot to work on his game, obviously. He's still a young kid, but what's gone wrong in that time after his initial goal on his debut.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Benny. It's spot on. He started his debut. I think he played 66 minutes, starting against Ross County, one of the lower kind of teams in the Scottish Premiership. 3-3 away, if I remember correctly, was the scoreline there. And he did look exciting, like you say, young man. He's got talent. There's no doubts about that type of thing. Came in, played relatively well, and got the goal. After that, he ran right into the Celtic game at Parkhead, the Old Firm game. Mm-hmm. And Rangers got beaten 3-0 that day. We played particularly badly. The entire team played particularly badly. There's no two ways about that. So I'm not heaping that all on Amad in any way, shape or form. But I think he lasted 45 minutes. So he's only started 3 games since he's been here out of 15, right? That's happened in that time. And that was his second start, the third being Annan in the Scottish Cup game, right? But he started at Parkhead and looked like a rabbit in the headlights. Now, one of the reasons to join a club the size of Rangers is to play in front of large crowds and with a weight of expectation. A bit like Man United, you're expected to win games, right? Absolutely get that. He just looked like he'd walked into a game of FIFA and found that his controller wasn't plugged in. It was not happening for him in any way, shape or form. So he get hooked off at half time. And like I said, I'm not blaming him for that result. The entire team played badly that day. But he's not really effectively recovered from that. So if you pair back and you look at the stats there, like I said, 15 games have been available to him since he joined 27th of January or whatever. He's had something like 3 starts, 9 appearances on the bench, and 3 not even making the squad. And then of the 9 on the bench, 7 times he's been unused. And if I do some fast maths in my head, that's 15 times 90 is about 1,350 minutes, right? He's been available. He's played about 225, which is about 16.6% of the available game time. He has not been able to break into the squad and provide that attacking flair and unlocking pack defences that we run into in Scotland. Really important as well that he's not even been able to break into what you would maybe describe as the more free-flowing dynamic, which is the European games in the Europa League. He just hasn't brought enough to the squad, and he is effectively on the fringes. Whereas people have just been performing better, Benny. He's not brought what is undoubtedly his talent to the team. And whether that's an attitude, an aptitude, a desire, and a commitment concern is probably up for debate.
It's interesting you say that. Sorry, Ben, I just want to quickly jump on that. So who's keeping him out of the side at the minute? Because I'm just looking at your last game. I think it was 2-1 against Dundee, I believe, yesterday, or it might have been the day before. I'm just looking at the lineup there, and it's got obviously Kent, Arfield, and Ramsey across the midfield with Morelos up top. So is it Ramsey then that's keeping him out of the side? Because like Benny said, he started off quite well. He's clearly got the talent there. Surely you'd expect, like you said, a lot. You think, like I said, I'm looking at this from the outside. You've got Ryan Kent maybe on one side and Amad on the other. That seems like a pacey winger partnership. It's strange to me that he's not been able to get back into this side. Yeah,
definitely the balance view there in terms of having Kent, having Amad, the interchangeable dynamic of that, having the likes of Yanis Hadji in there, who's out injured at the moment, Morelos, Kemar Roof, Fashion Sakala, these types of players. And they have been keeping him out. So obviously a reference that Hadji's injured right now. The only point I would probably take is, I know that he scored on his debut, but as I've referenced, Ross County, pretty poor side. I would not take that as a barometer that he started his Rangers career well. It was okay, and he got a goal at the back post on his debut. I'm not doing the boy down, but don't infer from that he played really, really well in that game and then deserved to be in the starting lineup. Like I said, his trajectory has been, at best, sometimes flat, at worst, completely gradient down. He scored in a rough and tumble game on his debut. He then started the next headline match, Celtic at Parkhead in the Old Firm, performed abysmally in a bad team that day, and then bench, started in a lower cup game, hasn't done anything. He scored 1 goal, that only goal, and I can't reference any assists either in all of those other games. And then, like I said, it's just been bench, unused, not made the squad. Quite frankly, he's obviously not done enough in those games to engender any confidence in Giovanni van Bronckhorst, our manager, and he's not been able to push himself forward in training, even in the limited game time that he's had. So, yeah, he's not started amazingly well. He's not gotten better. and pretty much he's down the pecking order. Even when he was on the bench, we don't turn to him. So there's definitely a lack of some confidence there in terms of his ability to be able to deliver.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just want to flick it back across to Garner briefly then, just on that then, in terms of game time. Obviously, we see Garner a lot as United fans. We're very highly on our radar. We saw him obviously yesterday against Liverpool. I thought he did pretty well, held his own against a very good Liverpool side as well yesterday. So just on Garner then, in his minutes, is he starting, for people that maybe don't watch, our loan players as closely, is he starting every game? Is he a key part of that team? Has he got the trust of the manager? All those kinds of things.
Oh, he's got the trust of the manager. I mean, when Cooper came in, it was in and out with Cooper, but Cooper got that recognition with wanting to play young players anyway. So he's done really well. I mean, he's starting every game now, and good thing with Garner is that he can play us that number 10, he can play us number 8 or number 4. So he got that bit more of the variety to his game now, and he's starting every game. I mean, yesterday he held his own very well against Liverpool's midfield 3. Also, I mean, it was that bad for Liverpool. There had to been 4 first-team players on just to win in the game. So, but yeah, Garner is minutes-wise. I mean, he plays 90 minutes every week. It's very rare he comes off unless if he's absolutely ran himself into the ground.
Yeah, on Garner, Dan, as well. Is it everything that you expected of a Manchester United player? Because some people have high expectations when their club gets a Manchester United player on loan. Is it everything that you expected? And also, what do you make of his set pieces as well? Because that's something that I think might surprise even some Manchester United fans. That he's actually quite decent on a set piece. Like myself, I'm quite used to seeing him because I watch quite a lot of the under-23s. So I've seen him from academy level. I know that he can whip a decent ball in, but has that also surprised you, his set piece delivery?
It don't surprise me, to be fair. I mean, he scored against Cooper last season, and he scored it from an impossible angle. So his set pieces are brilliant. I mean, he's on corners and free kicks all the time. If being honest, from a Man United player, I think he's probably one of the better ones I've seen that came out of Man U's academy, if I'm being honest with you. I'm really impressed with him. It's just a shame that it took him a while to get going this season.
There's a comment, I'm just going to bring it up actually, talking about Garner and Levitt. Now, I don't like doing comparisons. Obviously, Levitt's got his own loan path at the moment as well. Talking about the physicality of the players, technically a top player. Do you see that in Garner then? Do you think he's got that physicality to maybe make that next step? Because as we know, the Championship we'll get onto that a bit later in terms of the actual league, but it is one of the toughest leagues in terms of physicality as well. Do you think Garner's got that?
I think he's ready to make the step up, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, he's producing it week in, week out for me, and I feel like with his physicality, but even technically, for someone like Garner, he's technically quite really, really good. I feel like that he can make that step up into the Premier League now, and he'll be able to produce it regularly. I mean, Championship probably the toughest league in the world, to be fair. Probably the most exciting, but most hardest. I feel like he's proven himself to be a top and Championship player without a shadow of doubt.
What do you think, Benny, just off the back of that? Because obviously you watched the 23s, what you have done obviously over the last number of years. Just your thoughts on Garner's physicality as well. Because obviously you watch him, if there's a United fan that goes to the games, it's yourself. So what do you think on it? His physicality has kind of grown over the years as well. And obviously seeing him yesterday against Premier League opposition, we've seen it quite a few times with Forest now.
Yeah, he's always been a player that could dictate in midfield. I noticed that the comment used Levitt as well. Garner and Levitt came through the same time at the academy. They seem to come as a pair, Garner and Levitt. They always work really, really well together. And at some point, you can be forgiven of getting carried away. Well, this could be the next new central midfield partnership of United for the next decade or so. But I don't think Levitt's quite got the physicality of Garner. Probably hasn't quite got as far as Garner, yet in terms of his development and his learning of the game. I think Levitt could maybe even next season could do with a move to Nottingham Forest, especially if they get promoted to the Premier League. I think that'd be a brilliant move for Levitt, and then Garner can maybe then be introduced into our first team and seen, giving him a good crack, and we might save some pennies then on a midfield player, because I think Garner's got it all. And it's very refreshing to see a player also. Like, that's why I wanted to get his set pieces in and ask Dan about his set pieces, because very refreshing that we've actually got a player that likes to be on set pieces. I know we've got Ronaldo at the minute, and sometimes we've got Tellez and stuff like that likes to have a go at set pieces. But at least we've got somebody that's willing to work on his set pieces. A youngster out there that I watched the game yesterday against Liverpool. Every time Garner was like, "No, I'm taking this free kick. I'll whip it in," and it reminded me very much of David Beckham, not in terms of the way that he whips the ball in, but just every time they've got a free kick or they've got a corner, 95% of the time it's Garner that's grabbing the ball, putting the ball down, and trying to get a delivery into the box. So he's come on a hell of a lot since I've seen him for United's under 23s, and obviously since he first came on my scope at the under 19 level. Playing, the Youth Champions League, the UEFA Youth League. So I think he's ready. I agree with Dan. I think watching him, I watched him a little. I've not seen as much as Dan, of course, but I've watched Forest sporadically when I've been on Sky Sports. I watched, maybe 3 or 4 of their games, and every time Garner's impressed me. Every time Garner's the one that's taking that team by the scruff of the neck from a midfield perspective. And don't get me wrong, Nottingham Forest have got a fantastic team as well. So it's good to see that in a championship and in a good team as Nottingham Forest, that Garner's producing the goods.
I mean, with people as well, he probably got the best manager as well to work under. Because
your manager's quality. To be fair, I can't knock him. I do like him. I do like your manager. He speaks a lot of sense.
I mean, even against Leicester, all the set pieces John took that day, it were like unbelievable. Like, it's just putting it onto people's head. Like, he's been doing it all since he was a baby.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to bring it back to Amad then and talk about, I'm hoping you've got a couple of examples, just his positives then, in terms of, granted there may not be a whole host of examples there, but just from what you've seen of him in his limited time there, just what you think he adds to your team, and what maybe, if there is a gap in your team for him, how he can push his way back into that team.
Yeah, and I will try and find the positives. I appreciate this is a Man United podcast. I should try and find them. I've done nothing but slate the poor boy. But yeah, like I said earlier, there's undoubtedly talent there, and he's been brought in to the team because, by and large, in Scotland, we play against teams who are set up defensively, right? That low block or whatever terminology you want to use, right? Or a low back line or parking the bus, whatever, right? Cliche bingo. In terms of, he's been brought in to expend his pace and his trickery, unlock defences, help the likes of Morelos, Roof, Kent, take the load off, help Ramsey integrate as well. And there's telling that when Rangers were in the winter window, we went for the likes of Amad and Aaron Ramsey, very much players who are round about the box trying to unlock defences. So in order for him to get back in the team, he probably, based on his limited game time, decision-making has to become a hell of a lot sharper. And his commitment to taking on a man has to become a hell of a lot better as well. And he probably has to get more dynamic in his positioning in terms of just being able to front foot a player, get to the byline, cut inside, whatever that is. Very much in the time that he has spent on the pitch, it's been, and maybe this is because he's not breaking in and he is a young man and the expectations of whatever, he's been, by and large, either running down blind alleyways or playing the soft, safe ball. And so, as an attacking player, we don't mind as a support. I'm sure, Man United fans, Forest fans, exactly the same. You don't mind your flair players, losing the ball sometimes, because their job is to keep going back to the well and to try and unlock things. He seems to be affected by one really poor performance He's never recovered. He plays the safe ball. And quite frankly, if he's going to do that, he's a waste of a jersey because we've got players who can do that job better and just be blocking neat and tidy. So if he wants to get back in there, he has to rediscover the dynamism that got him his move to Man United in the first place and has made him a really, really attractive young talent for such a club as Man United. If he doesn't do that, you won't see him again at Ibrox or in a Rangers jersey before the end of the season unless it's, I don't know, on the bench, unused sub, maybe stewarding or serving pies at half-time. That's pretty much going to be his level unless he pulls his finger out.
Go on, Benny.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, Tommy, what's the manager's sort of reaction been to Amad? I don't really. I've not really read too much. I should have done a bit more research. That's my fault on my part. What's the manager's reaction, and also, to him, and also what's your fellow fans' perspective? When you go and speak to your fellow fans at Ibrox, are their opinions all the same as yours, or are there some different ones?
Well, I think in any support, Benny, you'll know this yourselves, guys, from your respective clubs. You'll always find a bit of a spread of opinions on anything. You can't even agree on the colour of a jersey sometimes, such as football fans. But in terms of Giovanni van Bronckhorst, who, as I said, replaced Steven Gerrard as our manager, when he came in, he played him, immediately. He started against Ross County. He then started. You get no bigger vote of confidence than getting a starting position in an Old Firm game. So he put him straight in at Parkhead. There you go. If that's not a vote of confidence to a player to go and grasp his jersey and his chance, then nothing will be. He just folded. And to your second question, Benny, which is absolutely legitimate as well, I would say that the heavy majority of fans have pretty much forgotten about him in terms of if he appears on the bench, brilliant. Nobody's looking for him. Nobody's waiting for him to do something that's going to reignite. He's standing amongst the support. I think the management team are probably in the same place as well. I've referenced some of those numbers about making a squad, being on the bench, being unused, even in games where it's been tight and you're looking for a flair player. I think it's going to be, it'll be really difficult for him to come back. And as I look ahead to April, which is a really important month with regards to, we've got a cup Old Firm game, we've got a league Old Firm game, we've got the quarterfinals of the Europa League against Braga as well. Do I see him being able to engineer becoming a really important part of those games? Not unless there's injuries, if I'm being brutally honest.
It's sad to see, isn't it, when you see loan players that go across. Obviously, we're seeing it a little bit with Donny now as well, that he can't even get into this Everton side. I know he's had illness and all other kinds of things. But when you loan these, especially youngsters out, the whole point is to get them game time. And when they're not getting game time, it's almost like it's an irrelevant move then, isn't it? Because Amad may as well come back to United now. If he's not getting the game time at Rangers, he may as well come back and try and...
But to be fair though, Connor, it could be like something that'd be decent for him, like a little bit of tough love, It might work for him. Like, let's say, for example, Tommy's there. Rangers have got a very, very busy month there, and if he maybe even gets into the Old Firm League Cup game, maybe the cup game that he was on about there, and he starts, he has a good game at the Old Firm, and then he might start believing in himself again. So sometimes tough love. Being left out a little bit sometimes could spark something in a player, but then again, it could go the opposite way. He may even go back into his shell, and then come back to United, and we have to maybe rebuild him a little bit again, get that confidence back in him. But I'm totally with Tommy though. You need to really take your chance. You need to be grasping your chance. At Rangers, it's a big football club, and it's in its own right. They're just as big as Man United. Listen, nobody's won more trophies than the Rangers Football Club. In world football. So, you go to a big team. You got your first start. Fair enough. You scored on your debut. You can take that's a positive. And as Tommy said, unfortunately, he's gone to Parkhead, and it's called a Parkhead, a big stadium as well. He's played at Old Trafford. And he's played at Ibrox, which is another big stadium. He seems to be frozen, a rabbit in headlights, I think Tommy said there. So, what do you think, Tommy? Do you think a bit of tough love, might swing it for him, or do you think he's, of what you see, do you think he's one of those players that needs his arm around the shoulder and a bit of a, a bit of confidence?
I think he might be the latter, Benny, but I completely agree with your points there in terms of, he's been given, you come out of Man United, like you say, massive club, Man United, Rangers, massive club as well. you get two types of loan generally. You get players who are going out on loan to develop their skills, and then you've got players who need to develop their attitude and the expectation weight on them as well. And Man United are definitely needing that type of calibre of player, as do Rangers. You're expected to win every game, and it's a disaster if it's a draw. You know that type of expectation. I think that's what he struggled with. And then he ran into, and I do think he's a kind of arm around the shoulder player, he ran into very difficult circumstances, which was, and I said, I'm not blaming him from the result in any way, shape or form. He gets a big chance at Parkhead. Rangers had been flying in the Old Firms, we hadn't been defeated. And then we play so badly and get a bit of a mauling in the first 45 minutes. It ends 3-0, right? And that's a really difficult place for a young player coming in, the weight of expectation, brand new into the club, and then such a big result that's then spoken about in the media, and the performances are spoken about in the media, for weeks on end afterwards. So I think that has been really unfortunate circumstances for him. To your point, if you want to play for Rangers right now, or you want to get back to your parent club, Man United, and become a starter, you've got to shrug this stuff off. You can't sit and wallow in your own misery and say, well, woe is me. No, you've made the grade, but that's only half the battle of being a professional footballer. You need to maintain and then accelerate up the way. And right now, he doesn't seem to be able to doing that. There's a lot of work goes on to him. We've got great training facilities, great coaching setup, but he's obviously just not quite grasping it. Maybe if he gets a chance with some minutes, as you were saying, across April, or there's some injuries, and he gets in and he boosts his confidence, he can be important for our running. We're in a title challenge here. We're fighting on three fronts, actually, Scottish Cup and the Europa League. So everybody who's in that squad, and he is in the Europa League squad, he's not been taken out of it. Everybody who's there can add something to it. He just maybe has to believe in himself and make the management team believe in him as well.
Fingers crossed he can force his way back in, because, like I said, what we saw obviously over in Italy, and then the reason why we bought him, there were massive journalists over in Italy, and they were really gutted to see him leave that country and come over to England. He started his United career quite good, and especially at the 23s, he was far too good for that level. Came into the first team and looked decent. That goal against Milan sticks out straight away. Just moving it back over to Garner then. So what do you think is Garner's best position then? You mentioned a few positions that he can play. If you were to nail him down and say, this is your position, because most midfielders usually, nowadays, I think there's a few that can play a couple of positions, but most of them have got, that's your position. It's kind of nailed on. Where do you think Garner's best position is?
Deep line. The deep line players, and number 4 really, or even number 8 personally, because he can dictate the play really well. I mean, some of the balls he can play, it looked like he's got another bit like Paul Scholes with like the balls that he can play. So I do think more for number 4, number 8. I mean, he can do the job at number 10, and he can do a job there, but it's more effective when he's in that number 8, number 4 spot, where he can dictate the player and actually play to his strengths.
So do you think that's his way of breaking in maybe to the United side then? Obviously, I'm going a little bit further onto the next few topics, but do you think that's how he gets in the United side from what you've seen, maybe in that kind of deeper line role? That, to be fair, if anyone who watches anything to do with United, that's the one position you'd say that we're looking at right now.
Oh, 100%. I do think he will break into that Man U side. I mean, they do miss like a Garner in there that can get the ball and just make things happen. I mean, no disrespect to Matt Fred and all that, but they're not like the players that would set like up the Man United team. I mean, with all the teams that you had over the years, with like Keane, Scholes and Giggs played in there. I mean, the McTominay and Fred not really like the deep line players that Garner is that can play.
I mean, just a question for me then. It's maybe less for me and Dan and more for Benny and Connor here. But we're speaking about Amad, we're speaking about Garner, for example. My question back to you both would be, from a Man U perspective, a fan's perspective, how highly rated are they? What were you expecting? And if you're not hearing what you hoped for, how big a loss is that for Man United's transition, let's say in the next 2 to 3 years? Are they really seen as the pinnacle of your youth system?
Go on, Benny.
Garner is the one that has always had this sort of a bit of a wow factor about him, and people quickly pick up on that at United. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, we get a bit carried away. James Wilson might be an example of that. James Wilson was a goal scoring machine in the under-23s and at all levels of the academy. Did okayish when he got his chances in the first team, but then struggled so badly, ended up at Salford City, and then I don't know where he is now at the minute. I think he's playing in the lower league somewhere. So it could go one of two ways, but Garner is the one that everybody's been talking about probably since he's been 17, 18 years old. There's always been something a bit special about Garner. And I think sometimes we're a bit guilty of maybe overhyping players too soon. At the minute, we've got a lad called Charlie McNeil. He's another goal-scoring machine at that level. And if reports to believe, he was an absolute goal-scoring machine, breaking all records at Man City when he was at Man City. And everybody always asks, "Where's Charlie McNeil? Where's Charlie McNeil? Why is McNeil not getting chances in the first team?" Yeah, he's still got a lot of developing to do, because at 23s and when they play in the Papa Johns against League One and League Two sides, you can see that the strength's not all completely there at the minute. You know, he gets out muscle off the ball. He's missing gilt-edged chances against Sunderland in the Papa Johns. Took those 2 goals, we'd have gone through and into the knockout stage of the Papa Johns. But still a lot of learning to do. Someone like Amad, though, is if it doesn't work out at United, it'll be saying, yes, it's another failed right winger type thing. You know, it's another fail. You brought him to try and fix your right hand side, and everybody that knows historically, since Ronaldo originally left, we've never really had a right hand side. Yes, we had Antonio Valencia. We've had people like Gabriel Obertan sort of coming in and trying to mix it in that position. But if you think of over the last decade, we've had people like Juan Mata playing out there with no pace, no legs, unfortunately, from Juan Mata's point of view. You've been trying to vary up with Ashley Young and Antonio Valencia, and then they was always maybe play more as wing backs. So we never really had a right midfielder. Then we'll go on a right winger. Then we'll go and buy Jadon Sancho in the summer for a right wing. He ends up being better. He's on the left wing, so we still have that problem position of a right winger. And if Amad is struggling at Rangers, you know, to even get in their first team, it is a little bit worrying. It does set the alarm bells off, because when he first went to Rangers, that's a great move for him. Big football club, as I said before, massive games against Celtic to play in the Europa League. Now, in the latter stage of the Europa League, you could go all the way, into a final, and then as a Manchester United, from my point of view, it's a bit disappointing not to see Ahmed even get any minutes. And if he was to progress to a Europa League final or get to a Scottish Cup final, or even, as you said, you're in a title battle with Celtic. It's a bit disappointing for me that he's not involved in that title battle. He's not getting their minutes in there. He's not getting used to it. Something that at United we're expecting to always try and challenge for titles, to try and challenge for trophies. Yes, the last 5 years, it's not gone our way. We're struggling, but we still expect that from our players. The weight of expectation is that even if they come from the academy, we buy somebody in, there's always huge expectation. There's always people that get really, really excited, and then the pressure is put on them straight away, basically. Like yourself, Tommy, you think, we've got a Manchester United player coming in. Yes, he's not the finished article, but it's a player from Manchester United. Expectation straight away. Expectation is shot. That weight of expectation is shown. If you can't handle it at Rangers, massive football club, how is he going to handle it at Manchester United, at one of the world's the biggest football club, where everything is scrutinised in the press every single day? A bit like, I think you touched upon it at Rangers there, Tommy. Everything's scrutinised in the press over there, but Manchester United is scrutinised globally every single day. Any sort of negative bits of articles that writers can write and the press can write, or they can put out there on social media, they will do that quickly. They'll get that out there quickly, and then they're so quick to hammer players as soon as they can. And we see that across all levels at Manchester United, unfortunately. So it's a bit of a worry if he's not handling it at Rangers at the minute, is he going to be able to handle it at Manchester United? Whereas Garner's the other way around. Garner's probably come through because he's an academy product. They try and teach it and instill them in the kids at quite a young age. Listen, this is what it's going to be like. You're going to face all this, especially when things don't go right.
Sorry, Ben, can I just quickly jump in off the back of what you were saying? I think with Amad as well, because the expectation, I think with Garner being a United youth lad, I think the expectation is obviously higher. I'd say you get more leeway as an academy player than you do as a transferred in player, for example. But I think with Amad, it's disappointing for me personally to see his loan maybe not getting minutes, because that right wing spot has really opened up this season. Martial's obviously gone out on loan. We know what happened with our previous number 11. Obviously, he's now not in the squad. We've got Alanga breaking through. Sancho has been pushed out onto the left. We don't know what's going on with Rashford. Cavani's probably going to be off in the summer. Amad's got a chance now of breaking into that team. If he would have carried on good form at Rangers and pushed on this latter half of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if he could have saved us some money and pushed him out on the right hand side for next season. But it's not seeing him.
The problem that Amad has as well, sorry to put in, pal, is that you've seen him yourself. The under-19s, the under-18s, and the 23s are breaking through, and especially in the 18s, you've got a guy called Alejandro Garnacho coming through. Yes, he predominantly plays out on the left, but he's another one that could play out on the right, and he's just been caught up to the Argentinian senior national side. Because to play, to participate alongside the likes of Lionel Messi and the Angel Di Maria's and that, and he's not even played 1 minute of first team football at Manchester United yet for the senior side. So the problem with Amad now is he's going to have to play catch up now. There's a lot of good youngsters coming through. He needs to realise he needs to try and seize his chance at Rangers. He's got that low move. You're playing at a very decent level. You're playing European competition football, something that United not even in themselves at the minute. I think for Amad, he needs to try and realise if he grab it with both hands now, next time he gets his opportunity, hopefully, as you said, it's a big opportunity for him to get into the first team at United, but he needs to show more.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just to add a little bit, to that. So we're talking about, and anybody can have a view of any league, right? And I know some people will have a view of the Scottish League. Illegitimate. It's a more technical league than people give it credit for. But if I take your point, Benny, absolutely legitimate as well. If you're looking from the outside, you would expect your high-cost players coming in to be played in your most important games. And I've referenced the fact that he started at the Old Firm game and then fell away. If I look at the Europa League games that have happened since he's been here, you've got the 2 games against Borussia Dortmund. So we beat Dortmund in Germany 4-2, then we drew 2 each at Ibrox. He was unused sub for the away game, and then at home he was an unused sub. And then recently, the last 16, we had Red Star Belgrade, who we beat to go into the quarterfinals. We beat them 3-0 at Ibrox. He was an unused sub, and then in the away game he was an unused sub. So he's not even being able to break into what you would say, and I think I said this earlier, if your view, like as I said, and I don't mean you guys here personally, but if someone's view is, well, the Scottish League is built on power and pace and challenges, which it isn't naturally, right? There's a lot of technical ability in there. But even if that was your view, in the more sophisticated football arena of Europe, he's not getting anywhere near that team anyway. He's sitting on the bench, and we've had difficult moments in those games where we're trying to unlock. Certainly the Dortmund games, we are set up for free-flowing attacking football, lots of space to run in behind, all that type of thing. Absolutely unused. And that's probably a really important barometer for you and your listeners, that when it comes to those games where you would think that he would be a choice, he's not getting anywhere near to game time.
Yeah, 100%. I will just add as well, that Rangers Dortmund, that tie, I think is probably one of the best European ties I've seen. If anyone watched it, I don't particularly like Rangers, but I thought the atmosphere, particularly in the second game, sorry, Tommy, particularly.
I've been waiting on it.
I should have waited till the end to say that. Particularly the second leg, I thought was just, I mean, unbelievable. Anyone who hasn't, I mean, why didn't you watch it? But I thought that was probably one of the best European ties, and that, like you said, it was set up for Amad. You know, it's set up for a pacey player like that. But yeah, obviously
two good teams playing good football. Particularly Rangers, obviously, and I'm not going to talk to you directly anymore, Connor. I'm only going to reference Dan and Benny for the rest of the podcast. Well, I mean, two free-flowing football teams playing really good football. I'm with you. I thought it was, the tie of the round, if not one of the best games in Europe you'll see this season across two legs. And we took Dortmund apart. But yeah, the point being, free-flowing attacking football, lots of space, lots of interaction. Built, certainly the first leg, built for attacking players. Amad, not in the starting lineup, and then turning to the bench maybe later on in the game where you get pacey. I mean, Dortmund are playing guys like Mats Hummels at the back who need to play a low line because they don't have the pace anymore. Not even used.
Yeah, lots of madness to me. But we'll move on just briefly on to talk about the leagues themselves and the benefits to the players. Dan, I'll come to you first in regards to the Championship. I referenced it earlier that I actually think it's probably one of the hardest leagues to get out of and to stay in if you're fighting, obviously, near the bottom. Just looking at it, you can talk about it from a Forest point of view or the league as a whole. Youngsters be going there? Why should youngsters choose the Championship over other leagues? What can that league offer?
It's probably the best league. Well, one of the best leagues in the world, to be fair. I mean, I said it earlier. I mean, for a young player to come into the Championship, it's that benchmark before you get to the Premier League. Like, there's some really, really top sides in there. I mean, Fulham, they've been in Premier League, Bournemouth, Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, Forest. I mean, there've been teams in there that have been in the Premier League and been in and out. And anyone can beat anyone. So, I mean, some of the results that does happen, you like, wow. I mean, Fulham drew with Blackpool and lost to them this season, which you would have, on paper, you wouldn't have expected it. So, for a young player to come into Championship, you got to be like, it'd be good for them to develop and actually be able to push yourself, because if you can't hack it at Championship level, I mean, how can you hack it at Premier League? Because probably the Championship is more harder than Premier League in terms of the physicality and the technical side of things.
Definitely. I just want to ask you a follow-up question to that, because we had a Birmingham and a Swansea fan on. We've had them on quite a couple of times, actually, to talk about, obviously, Laird and Sean when Laird was over there. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked them, and I'm intrigued by your answer. If there's one team in the Championship you'd say not to go to, which team would you be saying for youngsters to avoid?
Not to go to? It depends, really. It depending, with Garner, that Forest can play good football. So, depending what sort of player how you want to mould them. I'd probably say Derby, but that's just me being biased because of the rivalry. But yeah, it's a tough one because every team in Championship got their own unique ways. So, probably say Derby.
Yeah, interesting. I just thought I'd ask that because when we had Amy and Tom on, they both said Barnsley. They weren't they weren't huge fans of theirs. So I thought I'd ask the same question there. Go on, Benny. I'll see you.
No, I was just going to say that Derby, but when he said Derby, I automatically thought of Ravel Morrison, another one of our former academy players that is doing quite well there. And I'm pleased to see Ravel Morrison actually finally step into a league, because we know that he's one of those players that he's in one league, 6 months later he's playing for someone else in a tiny different league in a tiny different country. So I'm just glad that he's settled down, because as people know, that he was the creme de la creme of that midfield that had Jesse Lingard, Paul Pogba, in that FA Youth Cup winning team, the last FA Youth Cup winning side that we had in 2011. So I'm just glad that Ravel's played a decent level in the Championship and doing all right at Derby. But I'm going to come to Tommy now on this one, because I want to try and debunk some myths if I can about the Scottish League. Now, we all hear the same old phrases. Oh, it's a pub league. You know, apart from Celtic and Rangers, the rest of the teams in there are Sunday League standard. What do you say to someone? And a lot of these people don't watch Scottish football every week. A lot of these football have never been. A lot of these people that say stuff like this have never been to watch a Scottish game live at Ibrox, at Parkhead, or wherever they or any other grounds in Scotland. What would you say to people that to try and debunk that myth that Scottish football is like a farmers' league, as I think you said earlier on?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's only so much you do, because if people have that view without ever having watched it, then they're ignorant by design, and so therefore it's not my job to educate them. They need to educate themselves. But to your point, because I get the question, there is a lot more talent in the Scottish game, and there's been a slow bleed of Scottish players going to England recently as well, in terms of, or players coming through the cycle of the Scottish League before going to down south as well. There's always going to be bad players, less technical players, utility players, and utility teams to some extent in any league. So the question I would say is it's less about the Scottish League having some of that and having some really good players and performing really well. Rangers setting the standard, Celtic some way behind, obviously. But, doing that, you'll find that in any league. If I go to the Premiership, so if I just flick your question round about, the Premiership, for example, holds itself as the Premier League in the world. By and large, it's probably not, right? By whatever barometer you want to play to it, in terms of homegrown talent, in terms of, yes, I agree with that. Rangers Europa League final versus Barca would be insane. I'll definitely hope Barca get put out before that though. But I'll happily take it. But the point being, and I'm not doing the EPL down. What I'm saying is, within that league, you'll find some utility teams. Is anybody could tell me a Wolves or a Watford or Brentford doing okay, I suppose, but you will find negatives about any league if you want to find them. The point being, there's a lot of good, positive things across that league as well. So, but to answer your question, because you've asked me something specific, if you look at the Scottish League, with relatively little money, our main clubs get into some level of European football. Rangers setting the standards. Our coefficient means, over the last couple of years, driven by Rangers, our coefficient means our champions this season going to the group stages of the Champions League proper, no qualifier. That's a massive thing for a country of 5 million based on that league. So, and might not have been known to you. So you take that straw away, and then you look at the player development. Because of the lack of budget, everything is youth infrastructure. So the predication of young players being brought through is really strong and prevalent. And then on top of that, you say, okay, what about the actual playing environment? Well, based on numbers per head, it's one of the best supported leagues in Europe. And there's a lot more passionate fans than a lot of English grounds as well. And I'm not, again, doing the English league down. I'm just saying there's a hell of a lot going for Scotland and the Scottish teams, and Rangers in particular, who are huge. If you want to find something negative about a league, you're going to find it. There's certainly a good few games in the Premiership that might not be turning my TV on a Monday night to watch. I can think of a few. But there you go. Hopefully that answers your question. It's not about individuals or anything. It's about saying, what are you looking for from your football? And I will take my, even in its rawest elements, Scottish football over pre-packed, phones out, English games where there's a distance between the players, the fans, and some of the fans probably couldn't even tell you who's playing unless the players tweeted it first. I think I'll take the Scottish.
Just a follow-up question on that, though, Tommy, if I may. There's always been loads of rumours and loads of speculation that Celtic and Rangers to break away from Scotland and come and play in the English Premier League. Would you ever be a fan of that, or do you think, oh no, we need to stay in Scotland? We are Scottish football, and if that was to ever happen, would that be the death, so to speak, of Scottish football? Do you think, if the two big teams left?
Yeah, two really interesting questions, and I'm not sure if we got the chance to join the Premiership that I would extend that invite to Celtic. I'm not entirely sure we need them following us anywhere, to be honest with you, although they do follow us all the time, that has to be said. So yeah, I mean, I think, having said all that I just said about Scotland, we also know that football is a business now, and it is absolutely predicated on generation of money, right? And England definitely are streets ahead of any league in the world when it comes to that generation and the investment you've been able to generate for your league and the the enthusiasm for it and that global reach, which Benny, I think you referenced earlier as well, it would be crazy to turn that down. If Rangers got the opportunity to join it, they absolutely need to do that. To your second part of that question, yeah, I think it does absolutely rebalance Scottish football if Rangers were to leave and if we allowed Celtic to hide in one of our bags or something like that and come with us as the junior and firm partner that they are, then yeah, because there wouldn't be the level of investment into the Scottish game, as you guys well know, and therefore the league would settle, but it would be very much of a lower quality. I'm thinking a League Two, maybe a League One, that type of scenario, and that's not to do those clubs down. But in terms of interest, very localised. I don't see anybody paying international broadcast rights for St Mirren versus Hearts on a Wednesday night. Let's put it that way.
I just want to ask you one quick question before I take it back to Dan and just talk a little bit about the leagues before we wrap up with a little bit of kind of United talk on where we are. Tommy, just a quick one for yourself, because I'm going to drop this in 10 minutes before the end of the show, but my family do have a lot of Celtic connections, unfortunately. So I speak to obviously a lot of fans of Celtic. But I'm just intrigued from your side, because I've kind of heard this a lot, especially a lot recently, about the Old Firm games. Do you think that maybe it's always going to have that fierce rivalry and it's always going to have that kind of hype around it? But do you think the amount of games at the moment, there seems to be an Old Firm every month at the moment, like that's constantly, and that obviously happens because it's best two teams in the league, you're going to go far in the cups. But do you think that's taken a bit away from the derby games, the fact that there's always 3, 4, 5 sometimes a season?
No. Is the very, very easy answer to that. We could play our Old Firm every week, and trust me, it would still have the same generation of power and enthusiasm. No, like you said, you referenced it right, and generally, I think in most environments, familiarity breeds contempt, for want of a better phrase, and there is a paring down the more you play a team. It's not the same when it comes to an Old Firm match. The heightened sense of it just gets ratcheted up because of how close it is. The freshness of the result, if you've come out on a bad side of it, is right into the next one, and players don't get a chance to breathe. Some people would argue it's better because for players as well, because they don't have that long lead time. I mean, an Old Firm game, the last one, is referenced in every single scenario up until the next one. Yeah, it's fine, you've won 4 in the trot, but remember you lost the Old Firm game, there's another one coming up. That's the kind of predication, the conversation, as you'll know from your own family then, Connor, as well. So yeah, listen, play them every week. I'm absolutely happy. Play them every week.
That's a similar answer to what I got, to be fair, and it is. I know my not anymore. My granddad used to be season ticket holder with Celtic, and he used to say the Old Firms are just something else. So yeah, I can certainly back that up. I just want to ask you both for your kind of league predictions for your respective teams before we move it on to a bit of United for the last 10-15 minutes or so. So Dan, I'll start with yourself. I'm just looking at Forest now. So you're 3 off the playoffs. Got 2 or 3 games in hand over the teams that are in the playoffs. What do you reckon for the rest of Forest season? And could you push into that promotion place? Could you potentially push up to where Bournemouth are in second for the automatic spot, or where are you kind of looking for the rest of the season?
I wouldn't put it past you to get into the playoffs. I mean, we're the informed team, to be fair. Since people have been in it, I think we lost 6 games since September. That's that promotion form for me. I mean, to say the start we had as well, I mean, we're starting 108 years. So to be bottom of table after September, to be 3 points off playoffs, it's like, if you asked me that back in September, I'd slap your hand, like, I wouldn't think, but I can see us getting into the playoffs. I mean, if we win our games in hand, we'll be in there. I think, and it's that old cliche as well, if you win your own games, then pick up a win on the travels or pick up a point, I think we'll get in there easily. But Forest history playoffs aren't the best anyway, so I'm all rather go up automatically.
Interesting. It's going to be a tough shout, as you mentioned earlier, Fulham and Bournemouth. You know, Fulham especially. Well, Fulham will be clear, I'd have thought by now. They expect them to go up, but Bournemouth, you never know. I mean, look what happened to West Brom. I mean, they were pushing the top 2 to start the season, and they're mid-table now. They've completely fallen away.
Luton's been the one that surpassed me this season. I mean, they're third, and I'm just surprised they're doing so well. I mean, their own form brilliant anyway, but I wouldn't have expected them to be up there.
No, I know, Benny, you're looking forward to a potential Luton away next year.
Oh, Luton would be decent, mate. But then I love the City ground as well at Forest. I think that's a really nice old school stadium. Dan, I just want to throw a question. You know, at the start of the season, was you ever, as a fan base or as a fan or just individually yourself, was you ever hoping for promotion automatically or via the playoffs, or was it just one of those, we'll take each game as it comes and see where we end up in the season?
I'll be honest with you, I was sort of thinking, yeah, we can go up or we get playoffs. That was sort of the season. I mean, it would have been Chris Eaton would have had his pre-season behind him. He would have got us ready and organised. I mean, there was that stat about Hooton saying that he's only been in the top 6 of every championship club we've been with. So, but to say the sort we had, I mean, we would have been happy just to stay up or be mid-table. So to be where we are, it's unbelievable what can happen with a manager and mentality.
Yeah. Do you have the best manager in the league?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you might say yeah.
I'll throw it over to yourself and Tom for same kind of predictions. You mentioned there are 3 cups still in the Scottish Cup, the Europa League, and the league. Obviously pushing. I think you're 3 behind Celtic, which you mentioned. I think you've got Celtic next, haven't you, in the league? A couple of weeks.
Yeah, 3rd of April. Sunday, 3rd.
Yeah. So that potentially is obviously going to push for the top. You'd expect both teams to beat everyone else, but you never know. But yeah, just your predictions for the rest of the Rangers season. Potential treble or
potential treble, yes. Let's not. I'm not getting ahead of myself there. Obviously, it's nice to be in the knockout stages of the Europa League. We beat Braga last season in the group stages of the Europa League as well, so they're not an unknown quantity to us. That's who we've got in the quarterfinals. Certainly a winnable tie. We beat them home and away, if I remember correctly, 3-2 Ibrox, 1-0 away. So yeah, definitely can see a chance for the semis there. And then to use that cliche, once you're in the semis, it's anybody's choice. Barca side, not really wanting to alight on that too much. But so yeah, that'll take care of itself. The Scottish Cup, we've got Celtic. So again, you're running into the other biggish club, so to speak, in Scotland there. And then, as you rightly say, big moment in the league in terms of the old firm that's upcoming to try and set the tone. As I said, the last one, need to be really clear and transparent and honest as we always are. This is Ibrox, which is Celtic deserved the 3 points that day. They performed really, really well and took it away from us. Rangers need to react to that. We've been on a decent run, but you need to bring it in those games and get the points. I think it will naturally be nip and tuck between Rangers and Celtic till the end of the season. And just when it looks like the light is going to go out, Rangers will nick the title and retain it for 2 in a row.
Tommy, I just want to ask you on your managers, because obviously you had Steven Gerrard there. Our very good friend Steven Gerrard from down the East Lancs. You had him as your manager, and I got, obviously, you referenced it earlier, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. Is there much difference between the 2 managers in terms of style of play, or has Giovanni kept it exactly the same as the way that Steven was playing?
No, definitely. I can imagine Liverpool legend being a friend of the podcast. Definitely. That's why I've parked up to one side, gents, and I wasn't too sure about my Man City blue wall in the background. I thought about changing the position of the camera at one point, but they're definitely different styles of play. I mean, obviously he's dealing with the majority of the same squads, and so there's only so much you can try and do with that in a short space of time. But I would probably say I think there's some elements where Steven Gerrard's team were slightly better drilled. If I think about some of the set pieces and stuff like that, guys like Michael Beale and Tom Culshaw in the background of Steven Gerrard's team. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and his management team seem to have shown a little bit more bravery and flexibility, going to 3 at the back against Dortmund after going behind, for example, to pad out the midfield. Making those in-game changes seems to be a bit more. But yeah, there's definitely a different style of play. One thing that could maybe be accused with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, he certainly got it wrong at that game at the Old Firm at Parkhead. Got it wildly wrong and contributed to the defeat. But for the first couple of games, and it's still there, he sometimes sets the team out to get a goal and then just right? Be comfortable and then sit on the counter. And that's not the way that we like to see our team play. We want to be front foot, a bit like Man United. You'd expect to dominate and you'd expect to show some good quality football and get the fans off their seats. But to your point, there is a difference and it's noticeable.
Interesting. And just for the last of conscious of time, I just want to briefly talk about United before we do wrap up, and you can bring it back to your respective loan players, and or you can say what you want. Don't be shy. It's obviously a United channel. That we have got some negative people on this channel from time to time. But just Dan, I'll come to you first then in terms of what's going on at United. Like, looking at it from an outsider's perspective, what do you think is going on at United? Because it's been a really weird season. When you look back at the season as a whole, we had that first game against Leeds, beat Newcastle on the Ronaldo return. The fans were, I remember coming out of the ground at Old Trafford after Newcastle. We honestly thought we were going to win everything this year. And now we're out of everything. So where do you think it's gone wrong this season? In terms of, and what do you think we can do moving forward? What do you think needs to happen?
It's a strange one with Man U. I always think Man U, they'd be challenging every year for the Premier League and all the cups. I mean, to see where Man U are, it's quite a shock for me. I mean, start of the season, I mean, you started with Ole, and I thought 3 years now, he might get you going. He might finally gets put that stamp on the team. I mean, beating Leeds 5-1, I bet you guys enjoyed that. Then beating Newcastle Ronaldo, but it just feels like there's just something not right at the club. I don't know if it's just the mentality from the manager, if it's the Glazers being too negative or not backing the manager, or it's an odd one to call on the Man U perspective. I mean, to be where you are, I mean, it's not good. I mean, there was some rumours going around saying that the squad split with Ronaldo. Obviously, not a lot of players apparently not liking Maguire, so it's such a weird one to look at from the outside through.
And Tommy, just same question to be for yourself before me and Benny come back on anything that's just been said there.
Yeah, I think it's probably just a bit of a strange time to be a Manchester United fan. I mean, you could reference the fact you've got across the city performing really well in title hunts. You guys aren't. I think the worrying thing for me, and happy to take challenge on this, guys. It's your club, obviously. You seem to have all the components. You've got a decent enough squad. Decent enough. I think it's probably as good as I could make it there, right? To be polite. But it should be performing infinitely better. I would be more worried behind the scenes of what's the coherent strategy to get this club back to where it needs to be. Because right now, it all just seems like short term, not to over conceptualize this, but we all know the difference between tactical fixes and strategy, right? Strategy is the long term, medium to long term, tactical short term, right? It seems that Man U are caught in this cycle of, right, the fans are saying something or the newspaper's saying something, right, just plug a gap short term. Aye, that's fine, but you're never going to get anywhere. What's the long-term trajectory to get Man United back to competing for trophies legitimately? And I think we need to, I'm not being overly down on your club, but I think in a way away from legitimately saying you're challenging for anything. You need to get back to that, re-establish the credibility, because right now I don't think the team naturally has that credibility on the pitch, and then end up winning stuff. And quite frankly, as you look at Man United, you don't see that plan from the outside. You guys are closer to it. Please tell me if you do. But that's what would be worrying me most if I was sitting in your shoes, sitting in your seats.
Go on, Penny. I'll let you go on that first.
Yeah, we'll question the plan. What's the long-term plan? What's the 5-year plan? What's the 10-year plan? Where's this club going? And it is. I think that we've been in that sort of cycle that keeps spinning around since Alex Ferguson retired. You know, since 2013, we've been through various different managers, and every time we sack a manager, it seems to be we always get this sort of. We always say the word cultural reset or a reset or a redevelopment of the team. And how many years can we be in a reset and a cultural revamp and stuff like that? You know, we worked with David Moyes. Unfortunately, Moyes didn't work out. Then Louis van Gaal came in. That didn't work out. Well, he won the FA Cup, obviously, and then got sacked. Was it a day or two later? Because we got Jose Mourinho in. Mourinho goes and wins a couple of pots. Then it all goes to shit like it does with the majority of Mourinho's sides. Implodes. We've been Solskjaer in. He did brilliantly up until the Europa League final. And I think it's sort of, like Roy Keane said, the players, he said it way in advance, the players have chucked the same people that chucked Mourinho on the bus, was chucked Solskjaer on the bus. And that seems to have happened again. They stopped playing for Ollie, and then, we've had a dreadful sort of, we had a good start to the season, as you said, like with Leeds and with Newcastle, with Ronaldo coming back, and then it just all fell to shit after that, And it's like we're still wrestling it back. It's Ralph. I think Ralph's come in. He's been a breath of fresh air, to be fair, because his honesty is one of the things that I really, really like. And he pulls no punches. He takes no crap. He'll say how it is. I think that's what we need, someone in there. And I hope he's allowed to do his job. Once he does move into a consultancy role, if that's still to happen, that he's allowed to drag this club in and put a plan in there, but it's for the immediate 5 years and the future 5 years afterwards. So we've got a long-term 10-year plan. You look at our rivals down the East Lancs, Liverpool, that they had a plan with Jurgen Klopp. Didn't go so fantastic well in his first season, and then he started winning pots and he started winning trophies and he started, and look at Liverpool now, one of the best teams in Europe, arguably, one of the best teams in England. And the same with Man City. Man City had a plan to, they eventually wanted Pep Guardiola as the manager. They built a side that Pep Guardiola could just seamlessly up routes from Bayern Munich, come to Manchester, slip into his slippers, comfy slippers at City, and take him on. And again, we seem to be literally a million miles behind, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Man City, and even the likes of Chelsea, even with all their problems at the minute. You look at the Chelsea squad, you look at our squad, do you think our squad would be, up there on par with Chelsea or at least a level above? But we're not. We're struggling. We're struggling to sort of mould a team together and play as a team. Yes, we've got great individual players, we've got great individual talent, and a lot of the games maybe is like from the outside. I spoke to a lot of people, and they say a lot of our games maybe is one on individual brilliance, not on team brilliance. So there's a lot of questions and a lot of every time we answer a question seems to bring up another question. If you know what I mean, there's never a perfect answer because the answer you give always begs another question. Is that we're spinning round in circles? I don't know what Connor thinks.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. It's like you said, if you'd have told me at the start of the season after. I remember coming on, I said I hijacked the reaction show, walking out of Old Trafford. And I remember I was with you, Benny. We went to the pub afterwards, had something to eat after the Leeds game. If you'd have told me then we'd be out of all competitions by kind of February, March, and way away from the title race, potentially not even getting top four, absolutely no chance. So I've just got one more quick fire question for you both before I look to wrap up. I'm going to put you both on the spot here. Are we going to get top four? We're talking obviously Manchester United here. We're still in the hunt, just. Arsenal obviously have got the favourable running and games in hand. Obviously Spurs are in the mix as well. And you could potentially argue West Ham, but I think they're probably more focused on Europa League now than the Premier League. Dan, I'll come to you first. And are United getting top four this season?
I think if you get top four, it'd be like feeling like winning a trophy, to be fair. As you said, Arsenal got games in hand, they're in pole position, so it's yours to chase, but obviously it's Arsenal, so, and they've got quite a young team, so if Arsenal are on the combo, you guys got to capitalise on it, if you guys do or not, but it's still in your own hands, but it depending on if Arsenal slip up and if you guys can kick on.
And Tommy, for yourself, are we getting it?
Shortest answer of the night, no.
Do you know what? I love Tommy's honesty, though. I do love Tommy's breath fresh air, I like that, Tommy. Tommy, I know you asked, if I may quickly, Connor, I know you asked a question in the private chat here. Would the fan base find the news that you won't compete for 5 or 8 years? How palatable will that be? mate, our fan base, as Connor will tell you, you know, that they kick off at the slightest little bit. Everything's doom and gloom at the minute. You know, you know, we've got some fans hoping, you know, when Solskjaer was in charge, some fans were even praying that we'd lose games so we'd get sacked. You know, I think it's the way of the modern day, unfortunately, the modern game. Everybody's sort of, you know, used to the glory, used to the trophies, you know, whereas I'm a bit more, I'd take a 5 to 8 year thing cycle. If we don't win anything, I'll still be at Old Trafford, I'll still be at away games, I'll still be going, if we are in Europe, I'll still be going across to Europe and watching games. Sometimes you need that time, I think, to reset. I think people say you don't get that time anymore. You know, it took Ferguson several years to start making us successful again, 5 or 6 years, you know. And that's the great Sir Alex Ferguson, you know, and that was back in the late 80s, early 90s. Now the game's moved on. The problem is, though, we're wrestling with sugar daddy clubs, you know, the likes of Chelsea, the likes of Man City that can pump millions and millions in without all right, I know, again, the situation at Chelsea's changed just recently, but you're up against that sort of thing, you know. We have owners that take money, quite a lot of money out. Yes, they put quite a lot of money back in just recently, but we've been spending stupidly on players that don't fit the profile of the club. So I would say, I'd take it. But then I know a lot of United fans have been like screaming at me, oh yeah, but we need to be challenging. That's Manchester United's philosophy, you know. But I'd take that sort of reset. I'd take that. So in 10 years' time, you know, we have that long-term plan. We know who our manager is going to be in 10 years' time. Whether that will be the current manager, whether that be the current manager, whether that be a manager obviously coming in, which I think that will be. We'll definitely get a new manager in the summer. Whether he'll be in 10 years' time, is it a job for potentially Wayne Rooney in 10 years' time, in a decade's time, depending on how he does at Derby, and if he goes on to other clubs and starts winning trophies. It's just, I'd take it, mate, but our fan base ain't the most patient of fan bases, unfortunately. And I think that's indicative of the game as it is now these days. I don't think you get a lot of time for patience. Everything's got to be overnight success, or managers are sat left, right and centre, and everything is the end of the world, basically.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And we'll wrap it up there. Tommy, Dan, thanks for both for coming on. I'll let you just shout out your socials actually, and where people can find you. Dan, if people want to come and follow you or anything else that you want to shout out?
I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. All you got to do is search Football TV. I'm on there. I mean, I do regular content on all of them. I do previews, reviews. I do all sorts. And do that, really get really involved.
Yeah, definitely go and check that out. And Tommy?
Yeah, similar across all the platforms that you would expect. I'm not particularly interested in people wanting to follow me personally, although they can at Tommy in Glasgow on Twitter. More interested in the group that I edit, which is This Is Ibrox. So you'll find us This Is Ibrox for all your Rangers needs.
I will not be following that one, but I will follow your personal one.
You're barred, to be honest with you. You're blacklisted. You're not allowed to
I thought I might be. And well, everyone knows who Benny is by now, surely. I
hope so.
Following Benny, if not. Just on that then, so wrap it for the rest of the week. So we've got what have we got this week? I'm not actually too sure on this channel. My head's on both channels at the moment. So I will just say that at the back end of this week, obviously the women's team are playing at Old Trafford next Sunday, so there will be some extra stuff on Friday and next Saturday for that. But if you want to get an early look, there's a show that goes out. Benny is on that one, produced by myself this afternoon, that goes out tomorrow. So definitely go check that out. It's all about Old Trafford and everything like that. So. And there'll be some All for United men's faces on the WFC channel on Friday as well, talking about what Old Trafford means and the history maker that's going to be next Sunday as well. So we've got plenty of shows coming.
Also, check out the women's channel, by the way, as well, because they just had Willie Kirk on as well, who's ex-Manchester United assistant manager to Casey Stoney. When we first sort of brought back our women's side as a professional outfit, as a fully professional outfit. So, again, a fellow Scotsman, great coach. Obviously, he did manage Everton as well, so he's probably a really, really perfect guest to preview the up-and-coming game against Everton on Sunday for the women's team. So go check that out if you can.
Yeah, definitely. I was on that one, so it's another reason to go and check it out as well.
Exactly.
Another reason to go check that one out. But no, thanks all for coming on. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.